Ladies and gents, we have the fantasy football fanatic from Reading, David Lee.
Hey.
Hi, David. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all right. It's been
Good.
all right. It's been all right. What's going on? What's happening in your area of the world?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up fantasy football. I'm a big fantasy footballer, or as you might say in the US, the fantasy soccer fanatic. This weekend just gone was the first week, and my team didn't do too well, so I've got a lot of surgery to do on my team. But otherwise, things are going well. Yeah, I'm excited for the new season.
I'm glad because I'm not a football soccer person at all, so I'll need a little bit of education on that front for sure.
I can give you some tips. I don't think they'll be that good because I haven't done well at all in previous seasons.
So, how long have you been with this fantasy football shindig?
Yeah, I could talk the whole session about this, but basically, I've joined a league of friends and friends of friends for the last. It's been running for about 15 years or so, and there is a strict 32 team limit. So once you're in, you've got to kind of stay active to stay within the league, and it's just a great community. There's an end of season dinner. Someone usually invites in a guest speaker to talk at the end of season dinner. There's a kind of fun, a terribly executed football game, but we kind of play that amongst ourselves. We're not very good, but it's just a bit of fun to keep us engaged into the football season and actually keep in touch with some friends that we've moved all across the country, across the globe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also keeps you interested in soccer games that you didn't think you'd be interested in. So sometimes you're rooting for like a 0-0 draw, which is the worst and most boring result, but because it serves your team well,
Yeah.
it just makes you invested weirdly in some odd results. But yeah, it's been a nice distraction
I
and a
mean,
hobby of mine.
15 years, that is a commitment and a half.
Yeah, it can sometimes be a grind, but sometimes I'm holding out for that elusive win. So we'll see how that goes.
You mentioned speakers at like dinner, like special event, like end of season events. Who have you had so far?
Yeah, there's a popular commentary in the UK. We've got this radio station called BBC Five Live. They commentate on all the soccer games, football games out here. Someone played at the same tennis club as quite a prominent commentator, and they invited them along to speak at one of our events. He was a fantastic speaker, had lots of anecdotes. I think we once had the First Minister of Wales come along. Again, I think someone lived down the road from this individual, and he was a fantastic speaker. It was really odd though. We were in the back of a pub. We had hired out 2 or 3 tables, and there was this like very prominent member of parliament that was just sat amongst us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I haven't offered any guest speakers up, but if anyone would like to speak at our end of season dinner, please let me know. I'd love to invite you. That would be amazing.
Let's talk about brand safety and transparency. Woo!
Why not? Why not?
So talking about brand safety and transparency, you are just over a week into tag. How's it
That's
going? How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, great. As you said, yeah, this is week 2 for me, and yeah, I've already been like so impressed with the breadth and depth of experience across like the membership community. Like, I'll admit, yeah, just getting my feet under the table, learning about all the kind of initiatives there are, getting to know the community. But I've already actually had the pleasure of meeting some of the members at a previous State of the Fight gathering in New York. I think that was a year or so ago. And already managed to have my first sync with Threat Exchange members. And I've really been impressed with kind of the positive sharing culture. So yeah, really excited to be part of that community and kind of further promote and expand that kind of community. Within Tag, as I said, it's my first week. Just impressed with the scope of everything that they're doing, from certifications, tools,
Yeah.
threat exchanges. Those things we're able to offer members to add value to our joint mission.
So obviously you're the VP of Threat Intel. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so my overall responsibility is leading Tag's global threat sharing operations. My overall role, or my objective, would be to grow the threat sharing culture and strengthen our collective defensive capabilities in the digital advertising industry. And I kind of want to do this in a number of ways. Firstly, I kind of want to work with existing tag members to kind of further mature the existing threat intelligence sharing initiatives, such as promoting the sharing of indicators of compromise, like known bad IP addresses, domain names, things like that. There's already quite a healthy exchange in there, but I kind of really want to keep promoting that. Having tag members also conducting and collaborating on threat investigations. This is the whole point, I think the sum is greater than all the counterparts, the saying. Yeah, that's the big mantra that I've always kind of held myself to. So I really want to kind of promote that culture. I kind of also really want to grow the threat exchange membership as well by identifying kind of like-minded threat intelligence companies or ad tech companies, big or small. I kind of say big or small because it's not necessarily about finding those that contribute the most intelligence, although more is good. I'm not going to say no to more IOCs, but I found sometimes there can be unique data that exists in an ecosystem somewhere. Someone knows some unique piece of information, and that's going to have a measurable value. So I definitely see there being value in attracting, big or small companies. We all have our value to add. So yeah, that's how I want to see that through. So I kind of see all these initiatives contributing to TAG's mission of, enhancing the resilience and trust of the digital advertising supply chains against criminal and fraudulent activity. So yeah, really keen to work with members and future members to achieve that mission.
Great. So before you obviously joined TAG, you worked at NCSC, and previous other role. Well, no, actually, you've just been at NCSC for quite some time. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background to you?
I've worked in UK government cybersecurity for the last 15 or so years. Joined their graduate trainee program, and actually, back in the day when I started, it was called CESG, which actually didn't expand as an acronym. It originally once was stood for the Communications Electronic Security Group, but they became just CESG, and it didn't expand to anything. But yeah, bit of infosec trivia from the UK there. But yeah, I joined back in 2007, 2008, and it's interesting. You are kind of enforced to do rotations of 3 years, or strongly encouraged to do those. So you get a really good broad range of experience across the organization. So I've had a number of roles. I started out in looking at cryptography. So that's basically looking at how do we protect our own UK government data, through to looking at software, what vulnerabilities exist in them so we can know what risks do we hold by running this software in the UK. Participated in international standards. So how do we promote better technical standards, that have security baked into them from the start? Done my hand in writing policy and guidance. So, how can we use smartphones securely to protect government data? And that was probably one of my most interesting roles, because often you can be seen as a government infosec individual as the team that says no. You can't do this, you can't do X, you can't use Bluetooth, you can't turn Wi-Fi. And there was a real big shift in culture when I was there, where we were trying to start enabling a bunch of stuff. I think the reason for that was, if we kept on saying no, people were going to do something anyway, and they were going to do it in a really insecure way. So what we had to try and do was start to realize, okay, let's realize there is a real user need here, and let's try and work with that. There's an amazing talk at one of the previous Blackhats that talks about this. If we look up on YouTube, there's something called harm reduction. There was a talk given a couple of years ago. I'll try and find the link and send it out to the community. Amazing talk about not trying to say no, but trying to reduce the harm from some of these activities that people want to do. Absolutely brilliant talk. Yeah, and then my last role in NCSC, most recently, I was technical director for governance. Basically, how do we come up as an organisation with our collective technical position on these really wide-ranging topics, these really broad technical cybersecurity issues. When you've got lots of expertise dotted around the organization, how do you kind of come up with a kind of coherent and consistent message? So yeah, has an absolutely brilliant time. Managed to do some secondments out in the US and private sector companies. So yeah, a brilliant experience.
You mentioned about your secondments in the States. Do you see, or did you experience whilst you were on those secondments, like a huge difference between US and UK culture in terms of tackling threats, or the way that they do threat intel or threat exchanges between the two regions?
I think the biggest difference was just scale. Like everything is just so much bigger, and that was a real eye opener. Like we're thinking about some of the similar problems, and NCSE does think about things on a national scale, and that is big. When you translate that across to the US, no doubt it's going to be a lot bigger. The other bit as well is there's a lot more complex stakeholder landscape. There's quite a lot of players within the cybersecurity industry. It made it really interesting in terms of like understanding who were the key stakeholders. And I really enjoyed that challenge of like, what's the best way to make a real effect here, and who are the right levers to work with on that. Obviously, we had that in the UK, but just doing that in a different context on a much wider scale in the US was fascinating to me. Yeah, and I really enjoyed seeing it, and to see those practitioners do it well was incredible. So knowing when to engage with industry, the administration, government partners, all of bringing that all together, yeah, truly impressive orchestration. And I hope I can bring some of that experience to my role at TAG.
Amazing. So let's just break it down a little bit further. There's a lot of members within the TAG community who've heard of threat intelligence, heard of words like threat exchange, malvertising, malware, and they, relate it back to fundamentals of piracy, ad fraud, and everything. And it all just gets kind of jumbled together. Are you able to give us sort of like the baseline of threat intelligence and the impact it has on digital advertising? What was it? The Dummy's Guide to Threat Intelligence type of definition.
In essence, it's basically threat intelligence is the knowledge of what an attacker's activities are. So it's basically what do they do? Like, what do we know about what an attacker is doing? So that could be what infrastructure are they using, what techniques, what tools are they doing? Anything we can do to kind of illuminate what we know about an attacker. The more we know about that, the more we can disrupt their activities. That's kind of the whole value. So the whole idea is that let's share what we know about what they're doing. And actually, the reason for sharing as well is so that we can just stop this one domain here. We're more interested in doing this at a kind of holistic level. So can we start to see patterns of how they're behaving and so by sharing threat intelligence amongst a community, we can actually start to build a bigger picture about how a threat actor works. So if we know they're constantly using these particular IP ranges from this particular provider, then we can say, well, actually, there's something interesting going on. We can start to anticipate these threats.
So and how does that intelligence then feed into digital advertising?
There's a number of things. Yeah, different players in the industry probably have different levers to be able to stop this kind of activity. So we've got some players that are able to just stop serving to these IP addresses, or even if we see them, basically provide more information about what did you know about this threat actor's IP address? What IP addresses did it communicate with, or what else has it touched? So we can build a bigger picture in two ways. We can either limit their activities by just not interacting with them, or we can either enhance what we know about them by saying, okay, I have seen this IP address or this indicator compromise once. This is what additional information I can give you. So there's kind of a two-pronged piece that I think all our TAG members and the ad industry can contribute to threat intelligence.
Awesome. So we're coming towards the end of our team spotlight, unfortunately. So we're going to end off with TAG's 10 questions. So obviously, for people who have seen the member spotlights, we've done TAG's 10 questions before. They're essentially rapid fire questions. and there's 10 of them, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with digital advertising. So, David, are you ready?
I'm nervous but ready. So.
Right, your favourite sandwich?
Oh, sausage sandwich, easy.
Condiments?
Sometimes brown sauce.
Okay, all right, fair. White or brown?
Uh, white bread.
Okay, right. That's not part of the tag 10 questions.
Okay.
Flying car or teleportation?
Oh, teleportation would be awesome.
Speaking all languages or speak to animals?
Languages, I think.
Going to a gig or going to a sports game in person?
Sports game in person.
No,
Easy. So easy.
wrong. Absolutely wrong. What podcast are you listening to at the moment?
Planet Money is amazing. Planet Money in the US, I think it's NPR. It's like similar to the BBC. I guess in the US, it talks about economics, but dumbed down in a very consumable way for someone like me to understand.
Are you a hot food person or a cold food person?
Hot food. Yeah.
What's your go-to film?
Goonies.
Fair play. Tune or playlist you put on when you're doing the house chores?
I love 80s music, 70s, 80s music. So things like More Than a Feeling. I would try and sing it to you, but I don't want to ruin this interview. So
Jules, and Adrian would have an absolute laugh because they went on double verified boat party in Canada. It was just all 80s vibes.
Amazing. Yeah, I wish I was there.
Texter or a caller?
Texter until it's urgent and then it's calling.
Best form of potato?
Mash potato. Very creamy mashed potato.
Okay, what's in that mashed potato?
Creams, bit of chive, like yeah.
You put mashed potato?
Yeah, get it creamy.
No.
Yeah, that's a thing, right?
What? No.
Milk? I don't know. Butter, lots of butter. Lots of butter.
No.
I'm gonna look up my recipe.
I don't think so.
I might share a recipe later. So
okay, prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure you put it through a ricer and then you put it through a sieve, like you push it through a sieve to make it super creamy. And obviously
wow,
milk and stuff.
I did not know that.
Right, thank you so much, David, and welcome to the team.
Thanks very much.